So please turn to page 37. Okay, so when you got the page, you can raise your hand. Okay, Donna, have you found the page? Page 37. Okay, so sequence and series, I believe in grade 11, is it grade 11 or grade 10? You've learned it. Eric, do you remember?
I think grade 10.
Grade 10, right? And do you remember what kind of sequence and series you learned? Arithmetic? Is it?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay, too long ago, right? How about Kelly? Do you remember you learned sequence and series?
I think it was grade 10, but I don't know if I remember.
Okay, arithmetic. Have you, like, does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So they break it apart into two parts. One is the arithmetic, which has common difference. And then in grade 12, we'll be talking about geometry, sequence, and series. Okay, so it's a different kind of pattern. So sequence, we can go through the introduction just a little bit, okay, and then dive right into the geometric, okay? So sequence is just a set of numbers. They are arranged in order, in a pattern, okay? In order, in an order with pattern. Okay, so it's not a random set of number, right? They have special numbers. So like in arithmetic, you have the same difference between every term. Okay, for example, it's always adding by 2, right? Or always subtracting by 3. Okay, that kind of pattern. And then so this, if it has a pattern, then this set of number is called a sequence. Okay, and each of the number in the sequence is called a term. Okay, and then the formula that can generate each term is called the general term. Right, so you will be able to find a formula and then use the formula to find any term in the sequence, right? Suppose you want to find the 70th term, right? You don't need to go from first one, second one until the 70, right? You can just plug into the formula. So an example of the general term will be like this one in the red circle, right? So the Tn represent the term at the nth place, okay? So it's the nth term, okay? And then usually they use A to represent the first term, right? And then T2 is not T times 2, right? It represents the second term, okay? So this should be a review. You've seen the symbol before, right? So let's quickly go to, okay, you finished writing. Can you raise your hand again? Let me lower your hand first. Okay, raise your hand if you finish copying here. Okay, Samantha, are you done copying? Yeah, okay. So let's look at series, okay? Because all these introduction was in the grade 10 already, right? So we'll just go through the briefly, okay? So series is made up by sequence. So it's connecting each term, right? Connect each term of the sequence using a plus sign, okay? So for example, like S5, when you see the S5, it means it's adding, right? Adding the first 5 terms, right? So 2 plus 5 plus 8 plus, so the pattern is adding 3, right? Add 3. So add, next one 11, right? Add 14. So that's the meaning of S5, okay? The sum. So Sm means the sum of n terms. Okay. Now here it says you connected by adding sign, right? Plus sign. But over here you could also have subtracting, because I could rewrite subtract as adding a negative, right? So it's still connected by addition sign, right? So plus -27 plus something, right? So the terms are, the first one will be -1, second term, right? This is the A. This one is the T2 and T3 and so on, okay? So just a review of all these symbols here, okay? Raise your hand if you finish copying here. All right, Samantha, are you done? Yep, okay. So the pattern that we are going to talk about in geometric will be starting on page 40. Okay, so the key word is the word ratio instead of difference, right? Arithmetic is having a common difference. And then in geometric, we have something called a common ratio. Okay, so the key word is ratio. And to find the ratio, right, it's the ratio between any neighboring term, right? The terms next to each other is always constant. Okay, then we call that geometric sequence. So to find the ratio, you take the second term divided by the first term, right? Over here, second term over first term, or the third term over the second term, okay, and so on, right? All those are next to each other. And if they are all the same, then, right, all equal to R, then that R is called a common ratio. Common ratio. Okay, and the ratio could be fraction, could be integer, could be positive, could be negative. Okay, so if this happens, it's called geometric sequence. Okay, and then the R is common ratio. All right, so let's look at a few examples here. All four sequence here, right? All of them are geometric sequence. So here I would like you to find the common ratio, okay? And by using the common ratio, please write down the next two terms, all right? So for example, the first one, you take the second term, right, which is 12 over 4, first term, right? So that should equal to 3. And you can double check, right? This one, you can also take the third one, divide by the second one, right? Then that's also equal to 3. But because they already told you these are geometric, right? So you can just use the first two terms to find the ratio. So once you find the first, find the ratio, you can figure out the next two, right? So each time is multiplying by 3, right? Multiplied by 3. So T4 should be what? Tiana?
108.
Yep, very good. 108. Okay, and then T5, Donna?
324.
324. Okay, so pretty easy, right? Just get the ratio and find the next two terms. And for question D, it has radicals, right? So your answer should be exact. So don't use calculator, okay? No decimal answers for number question D, right? So when you have finished all four, I mean the 3 question, okay, you can raise your hand. Okay, by now you should have finished B at least, right? So let's check answer for B first. Ray, what's your ratio for B?
-4.
Yeah, very good. And Eric, what are the two terms?
512 and negative 2048.
2048. Okay, looks good. Please raise your hand when you finish C and D. Okay, Cindy, do you have the ratio for C?
-1/2.
Yeah. And Kelly, do you have the two terms for C?
-1/8 and 1/16.
Are you sure the sign's correct?
Oh, it's 1/8 and -1/16.
Yeah. Okay, because the fourth term is negative, right? So you change sign every time. Okay, please raise your hand if you finish the last one too. Okay, Donna, what's your ratio for D?
-3√2.
-3√2. Very good. Okay, 6√2 over -2, right? We can reduce. So don't be afraid of the radical, right? Okay, and then the two terms. Okay, Ray, what's your two term?
108√2.
108√2. And the next one? Ray?
I don't.
Huh?
I did it wrong.
You did wrong. What did you do?
I forgot to times the √2.
Okay, I'll let you try again. Okay, let me know when you get the answer, all right? Multiply by -3√2.
I got -648.
-648.
Yeah.
Tiana, how about you? Do you have the same two terms?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anyone got different? Anyone has questions? Okay, should be pretty straightforward, right? You just divide it and then use the ratio to multiply, right? To get the next term. So it doesn't matter if the ratio is a fraction or not, right? It's always multiplying, right? To get the terms. All right, so these are, they give you the sequence, okay? Now the bottom part, question 7 is for you to make the sequence, okay? To write out the sequence. So here they give you the general term, right? Remember, general term means it's a formula that can help you, let you find any term you like. So here we would like to write out the first 4 terms, okay? And then once you know the terms, you can figure out the common ratios, right? So I'll demonstrate one of them first. So for example, I want to find the first one, right? So it'll be T1, right? Or you can say A, right? T1 means the n has to be 1, right? So put 1 into the formula. So 1 minus 1, that's a 0. Now the exponent of 0, okay? I'm just gonna write 0 there. Okay, exponent of 0, it only affects the 2, okay? So it doesn't make the whole thing into 1. So it'll be 5 times 1, so equal to 5. Okay, let me write it on the side instead. Okay, so equal to 5, okay? And then T2, so you put the 2 in, so that will make it 5 times 2 to the 1, right? So that would be 10. So by now you could already see the ratio is a 2, right? And then T3, so once you know the pattern, right? So times it by 2, so 20, T4, and then that will be what, 40, right? Okay, so once you get the first 2 or 3, you can get the ratio. So R equals to 2. Okay, so I'll let you try the same thing, 3 questions, and then I'll ask some of your answer later. Okay, raise your hand if you finish all 3. You could also put your answer like this, right? Above the lines, okay? So like, for example, question A, right? 5, 10, 20, 40. Okay, list them out. All right, let's check answer for B first. Cindy, can you tell us your 4 terms?
Wait, I didn't do the 4 terms yet. I just got the R for B and
You got the R for B? Okay, yeah. Then what's the R?
1/2.
R is 1/2. How did you know R is 1/2?
I got the first and second term.
Oh, okay. And can you tell me the first 2 terms then, first?
3/4 and 3/2.
3/4 and 3/2. How did you get 1/2 then?
I divided.
Divided, okay. Can you tell me which one divide by which one?
Oh, wait, never mind. 3/2 by 3/4.
3/2 divide by 3/4. And then how do we do division?
2.
How do you do that?
Oh, I used the
Tell me the steps. Calculator, are you kidding me? Huh? Tell me the steps, okay? You need to know how to do divide.
3/2 divided by 3/4 is a 3/2 times 4/3.
Yes, and then?
Cancel out the 3's and then do the 2 and 4 into like 1 and 2.
Yeah, okay, reducing fraction. Okay, so as you can see, ratio is a 2, okay? So the fraction is deceiving, right? Also that if you see a 1/2 in the general term, it doesn't mean the ratio will be 1/2, right? Even though it works like that for question A, right? You saw a 2 in the general term, so it feels like, oh, the ratio will be 2, but it's not always the case, okay? So it's better to list out a couple terms first and then use it to find the ratio, all right? Okay, so if you finish the last 2 terms, okay, Cindy, you can let me know, okay? Tell me the next 2 terms.
Three and 6.
3 and 6, very good. Okay, so please move on to C and D. Please raise your hand when you finish C and D. So question C and D, you have negatives, okay? So be careful with the signs. The terms might change sign, right? Okay, can I get the answer from Kelly? Do you have the first 4 terms for C?
-3, 15, -75, and 375.
375. Okay, thank you. Elaine, do you have the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's your ratio then?
-5.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Okay, so you can use the formula, right? This is how you use the formula. Plug in the number, okay? For question D, you can see that they use a TK, right? Instead of TN, it doesn't matter. They can use any letter they want, okay? It's the same idea. Is there anyone doesn't has a different number for ABC so far? Right? If you get something different, let me know. Okay, we can find out which step you did wrong. Okay, we can go over the details. Please raise your hand if you finish ABCD. Ray, you are not done yet? Yeah, okay. All right, Tiana, what's your first 4 terms for D?
-16, 8, -4, and 2.
Okay, and Eric, do you have the same? Eric?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What's your ratio then?
Negative 1/2.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so you could leave it as negative 1/2, or you could write negative 0.5. Okay, doesn't matter. So now the last two questions, right? The C and D, you can see that the ratio, right? You can see it in the formula, right? In the general term, it's the same. Okay, negative half, and you also see a negative half there. Okay, but it's not always the case, right? You can see question B, even though you see a half, but the ratio is a 2, okay? So I just throw that in there to help you remember that, okay? Most of the time, the ratio, you can see it in the formula, okay? And also, if you are curious why, okay, it's also because the exponent, you have a negative in front of the variable there, okay? That's why it's making it not opposite, right? Flip around, okay? And you can see the other one, the k, right? It's a positive coefficient, right? Also for question A, right? A and B, the n positive, right? N positive. Only question B has a negative in front. That's why the ratio, right? You got to flip it. Okay. So other than that, okay, let's move on to geometry now. So all of these are geometry sequence, right? So how do we get the formula, right? Suppose I have, let's say over here, right? The question 6, I have the first 4 terms, I'm okay, I get the ratio. But what if I want to find the 100th term, right? I don't want to list out one by one, right? That will take too long. We need to figure out a formula. So the next page is going to learn how to get a formula, okay? There are 2 formulas. Sometimes at school, they only teach you one of them, okay? So, but some teacher, I do see some teacher, they teach you both. So the second one is more useful, okay? It includes number 1 inside, so you'll see why later, right? So let's start with an example to help you understand where the formula come from. Or before I begin, okay, can I see a hand, okay, if you already know the formula for this? Can you raise your hand for geometry sequence? Does anyone know the formula already? Because I know some teacher, they also teach geometric a little bit in grade 10. Okay, that's all right. So let's begin. Okay, so here we have 5 terms, right? So this one is the A, right? This one is T5, right? T2, T3, T4, T5. And then I would like you to place the numbers on the stairs here, right? So the very bottom one is the first term, second term, third, T3, T4, T5. So by looking at the terms, what is the ratio? Kelly? What's the ratio here? Kelly?
2.
2?
2.
Yeah, okay, very good. All right, so ratio, let's write that down. Ratio equals to 2. So each time you would multiply by 2, right? Times it by 2, and then to climb the stairs. So eventually you get to 48. Okay, so now I would like you to draw a line in the middle, okay? So we are gonna derive first formula here, and then the second formula on the right side, right? So I will start with 48. Okay, I want to climb the stairs to 48, starting from the first step, which is 3, right? So of course now 48 does not equal to 3. So if I want to make 3 becomes 48, I have to keep on climbing, right? Going upwards. And each time I need to multiply by 2, right? So here I multiply by 2 once, I will get to 6. I multiply by 2 again, I get to 12. I multiply by 2 again, I get to 24. And again, I get to 48. Okay, so how many times do I need to multiply by 2 to become 48? Cindy? Did you get the question?
4.
4 times. Okay, very good. Let's count together, right? So that's number 1, 2, and then 3, and 4. Okay, so the exponent should be 4, right? So you can see that 2 to the 4, it's a 16, right? 16 times 3 will give you 48. All right. So now how do I use this to get the formula then, right? So 48, it represents T5, right? And then 3, it represents the first term, so A, right? Times it by 2, 2 is the ratio, right? And then 4 is like the space between the 5 terms, right? The number of arrows there are, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So think about you have 5 fingers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 5 terms, right? And then in between, there will be 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 spaces in between, right? So if there are 11 numbers, then you should have 10 spaces. Make sense? It's always 1 less, right? 1 less than the total number of terms. So the 4, the reason why you got an exponent of 4 is because 5 terms in total and you subtract 1. Okay? So that's why it's 1 less, all right? It's talking about the spaces. So in general, if I want to find Tn, right, general term, it'll be A times R to the n minus 1. Make sense, right? If it's T7, it'll be 7 minus 1, right? So that's our first formula. So please place that into the box on the top, okay? Tn equal to A R to the n minus 1. Okay, raise your hand if you finish copying everything here. And if anyone has question, you can ask me now, okay? Any part that's not clear. Okay, so let's try some question first, okay? We'll talk about second formula later. So I would like you to do the bottom 4 questions here, okay? We'll go over first one together, right? So here we would like to find the indicated unknown, right? So which is T10. We want to find 10th term. So because the number will be much bigger, okay? You can use calculator. But if the question has fraction, I would like you to leave your answers in fractions, okay? Like question C, it's in decimal, then you leave your answer in decimals, okay? Unless they tell you it's in fraction, okay? So if the question is in fraction, answer in fraction. Question in decimal, leaving decimals, all right? So we'll begin by writing out the formula, right? Formula is up there. Tn, right? Here we want to find T10, right? T10. So that means n has to be 10, right? So equals to A. A is a 2, right? Times the R. Okay, so how do we find the R? We've been doing that before. Okay, can you raise your hand if you have the R? Okay, ratio should be second term over first term. Okay, please raise your hand if you got the R. Okay, Samantha, do you know the ratio? Samantha, are you there? What is the ratio?
Not sure.
Not sure? Do you know what's the first term? Samantha, which one is the first term? I cannot hear you. Can you speak up? First term.
I'm not sure.
First term is 2. Okay? This is the first term. Which one is the second term?
-1.
Yeah, okay. So you just take second term, divide by first term. So what do you get?
-2.
Second one over first one.
-1/2.
Yeah, okay. So that's your ratio, okay? So you take the second one over first one, or you could take the third one over the second one, all right? So -1/2. And then to the n-1, right? The exponent is n-1. So 10 minus 1, okay? And you just plug that into your calculator and then leave it in fraction, okay? So when you get an answer, please raise your hand. All right, everyone try with a calculator. And because you can see that because the exponent is an odd number, right? So your answer should be negative, okay? If it's an even number, then the answer will be positive. Okay, so it'll be negative something. Raise your hand when you find the answer. All right, Donna, what do you have?
-1/256.
Yes, okay, very good. That's correct. Anyone got different? Okay, let me know. Okay, if you got something different, we can find out why. Okay. All right. Otherwise, I'll let you finish B, C, D on your own. Okay. So you can raise your hand as well when you finish all 3 questions. Okay. For question B, I'll show the setup first. Okay. A times ratio, right, to the 9 minus 1. Okay, Eric, what's the ratio for B?
1/2.
Yep, very good. 4,000 over 8,000. And Iray, do you have the answer for B? What's T9?
31.25.
Do you have fraction? 31.25? What in fraction?
125/4.
Yep, okay, very good. Okay. Yeah, if possible, right, then leave it in fraction, unless the question's all in decimal. If anyone got something different, okay, you can let me know. Please raise your hand if you have finished already. Okay, Kelly, do you have the ratio for C?
1.2.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll do the setup. Okay, A times 1.2 to the 14. Okay, so type it into your calculator. Cindy, what's your answer for T15?
14.12.
14.12, okay. To the nearest hundredth, right? Okay. Tiana, do you have the same? 14.12?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, last one. Please raise your hand if you finished. Okay, what's the ratio for D now? Donna, what's the ratio for D?
4.
4, okay, yeah. So you can see the terms are getting bigger, right? So times 4 each time. So T20 will be 1/8 times by 4 to the 19, right? Eric, what's the final answer?
3.436 times 10 to the 10.
Wow, that big, huh? 3
Yeah.
point, say that one more time, 3.436
436 times 10 to the 10.
10 to the 10. Okay, so this is called the scientific notation. Okay, so a really huge number. Tiana, do you have the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so that's it. Okay, so that's for using formula number 1. So based on these questions, right, you can see that if I want to use formula 1, you need to have 3 things, right, given to you. You need to know which term you want to find, right? Like T10, you need to know is 10, right? So N is 10. And then you also need to know the first term, right, to start with. And of course, you must know the ratio, right? It's a geometric. Now, sometimes they will take away some information and then the first formula won't work anymore, okay? So suppose you don't know what the first term is. You have somewhere in the middle, right? You have some terms in the middle, but you don't know the first one. So for example, the question will be like this on the next page. They tell you second term is 480 and seventh term is -15, right? You only have two things and nothing else, all right? And then you want to use that information to find either like T20, right? Or find a common ratio, okay? So when the first term is missing, that's where we need the second formula, all right? So let's take a look. So this time, right, I'm still trying to get to 48, okay? But instead of starting from 3, okay, I want to start with the somewhere in the middle, okay? I could start with the second term or start with the third term, doesn't matter, okay? So let's say I start with the second term then, okay? So I will do 6 to start, okay? So if I want to climb the stairs, I will need to still multiply by 2 each time. Okay, actually I want to change, okay? I want to start with the third term, okay? So then you don't get confused with the numbers. So I want to start with this one, okay? Start at T3, okay? So I will start with 12, okay? So to climb the stair, now it's closer, right? Closer to the finish line. So I will need to multiply by 2, 1, 2, right? 2 gaps, 2 squares. Okay? Yeah, so now if I change each number into symbols, all right? So 48, of course, is T5. And then the 12 is the T3, right? Third term. And then the ratio is 2, so R, right? So how do we get the 2 here then? Anyone? How can we figure out the 2 using the information we have so far? Anybody? How can we find 2? Kelly, what do you think?
You can subtract 5 minus 3 and it's 2.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so you just take the finished place, right? Minus your starting place, and then that will give you the number of spaces in between. Okay, so 5 minus 3. All right, so we can write it in general then, okay? So T5 is the term that you want to find, so that we'll keep it the same. We'll call that Tn. And then T3, you can start any place you want, right? So we'll call that Tm, okay? So Tm is the starting term. And then the m is the starting place, okay? Term and place, they are different, okay? Term is the number. This is the term, okay? The 12 is the term at the third place, okay? Term and place, it's like the seat number and also the person that's sitting there, right? That's different, all right? And then multiply by R to the n, right? That's the final place minus the starting place, the n, okay? So let's box that. And it's important to know what each one represent, okay? So let's write down the meaning over here. So the first one here, right? Tn, this whole thing is called the ending term, okay? Or final term, doesn't matter, okay? Ending term. It doesn't have to be final, okay? It depends on where you want the term to end, right? The term that you want to find. And then this one, Tm, is the starting term. Starting term. R, of course, is the ratio, okay? I won't need to write that out. N is the ending place. And then the M is the starting place. Okay, the key word here is the term and place. Okay, make sure you don't confuse which number goes where, right? Because later on when you see questions, everything is numbers, right? You need to know which number goes into the term, right? Which number is the place, okay? Sometimes it gets very confusing, right? So that's why I make a picture, right? 6 is the second place. 12 is the third place, right? Second, third, right? And then fourth place, and then fifth place, right? All the green number, they are place. And the blue numbers, they are the terms, okay? I hope that clears up. Yeah, you'll see it will get confusing later, okay? So please put the formula into the box on the top. And when you finish writing that, you can raise your hand, okay? So raise your hand when you finish copying everything. Any questions? Okay, so now remember I told you that number 1, formula 1 is inside formula 2, right? I said that, right? So because formula 1 is saying we want to start with A, right? Start with T1. So that means M has to be 1, right? So if you look at the formula, if I change the M into 1, it will be T1 times R to the n minus 1, right? Then that changes to formula 1. So that's why I prefer to just remember the second formula, right? When M equal to 1, right, you can write that down. When M equal to 1, then it becomes the first one, okay? So just remember the second one, then you will be fine, okay? You can apply it, even if you have the first term. All right, Samantha, are you done copying? Yeah, okay, so let's move on to question 9, all right? So let's try a few questions here. And after these 4 questions, we'll have a break, okay? We'll do these 4 first. The first one, okay, we'll go over this one together. So as you can see in the formula, okay, there are, okay, over here, we'll use this one. You have 1, okay, I'll number them, okay? 1, 2, right? 3, 4, 5, right? 5 things, right? Find ending term, starting term, ratio, ending place, starting place. So there's always 5 things to fill in, but in the question, they will be missing one of them, okay? 5 blanks, missing 1, right? So when we start a question like that, we'll draw the 5 blanks, okay? Ending term equals to beginning term, starting term, times by ratio to the ending place minus the starting place, right? Okay, so by looking at the question now, please fill in everything except, right, we are looking for common ratio, so we are looking for R. So everything else should be filled in, okay? So this is how you always start the question, okay, like this. Draw the 5 blanks, write down the variable that's missing, okay, and fill in everything. So when you filled in everything, all the blanks, can you raise your hands? Okay, we'll check. Well, check the numbers inside, okay? If you put the wrong number at the wrong place, there's no point going on, right? So 4 numbers here. Think about where each one goes. Okay, raise your hand if you have the numbers in the blanks. So let's number them. Okay, 1, 2. So that's 3. So this is 4, 5. Okay, Kelly, what do you have in number 1? Kelly, do you have number 1?
Negative 15.
Yeah, negative 15. That's correct. Very good. Cindy, how about number 2?
480.
480. Okay. And then number 4, Eric.
2 or 7.
7. Yeah.
7.
Ending place, right? So because the ending is is always, okay, the higher place. And then of course the last one will be the 2. Okay. So from there we can simplify a little bit, right? Negative 15 equal 480 times it by r to the 5. Okay, so from here you can start to solve. So what will be the first step to solve? What should we do first? Ray, what do you think? To solve for r.
Divide negative 15 by 480.
Yeah, very good. All right, so both sides divide by 480, right? Because on the right side they are multiplying, right? So we divide. You can write it as over. And then let's reduce it, okay? Don't use decimals, right? If possible, always keeping fractions. So what's the reduce? Simplified fraction for this one. Okay, please raise your hand if you have simplified it. All right, Cindy, what do you have? What's the simplified fraction?
Negative 1 over 32.
Yeah, negative 1 over 32. Okay, so now we will need to take away the exponent, right? The 5. So we do the opposite of exponent. So that's radical, right? So put fifth root on both sides. Because it's an odd number of the root, right? Fifth root is an odd number, 5. So it's okay to have a negative on the side. Okay, if it's a even number like square root, then you cannot find the ratio. Okay, you will say it's undefined, right? So this one, it's okay, right? So if you take the fifth root, then what's the ratio then? Tiana, what's the ratio?
Negative 1/2.
Yeah, negative 1/2. Okay, so that's it, right? So once you find the ratio, if the question continues to ask, okay, please find T20, right? Then you just plug into formula. And because you don't have the first term, right? So you will use the second formula to find T20, right? And your starting term, you could start either from the 480, right? Or you can start from the negative 15. It doesn't matter, okay? So you just plug into the second, always use the second formula, right? It's more general. Okay, any questions? All right, so let's do question B, okay? B is on your own, right? So by yourself, when you finish B, please raise your hand, okay? So start by drawing the 5 blanks, and I'll ask you guys to tell me what you put in later, okay? So this one is asking you to find T10, but same thing, you still need to figure out the R first, okay, before you can get T10. So fill in the stuff. Please raise your hand when you have finished the finding T10. Okay, because the question has fractions, right? 8/3, all right? So if possible, please leave your answer in fraction. Okay, Cindy, what do you have? T10.
What do I have for what?
T10,
Oh, like fraction or decimal?
fraction.
128/243.
243, okay. Thank you. Donna, how about you?
The same.
The same? Okay, Ray?
I got the same.
The same thing? Okay. Okay, and Tiana, can you tell us your 4 blanks? Start from number 1.
8/3.
Yeah,
9.
yeah,
6 minus 3.
yeah, very good. Okay. Right, so keep going if you're not done yet, all right? So 125/243 should be okay. So if we divide by 9, that will give us 8/27, right? R to the cube. Okay, so cube root 2/3. Okay, ratio is 2/3. Right, so once you get the ratio, you just plug into the formula again. So I want to find T10. And Kelly, which term did you start with? How did you find T10, Kelly? Can you hear me, Kelly? Kelly, are you there? Oh, let me see. Oh, okay. She can't hear. Okay. Then how about Eric? How did you find T10?
I did T10 equals 9 times 2/3,
Yeah.
and then exponent 10 minus 3.
10 minus 3. Okay, so you chose to start with the third term. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one you start with, okay? You will still end up with the same answer, okay? Okay, I think we will take a break first, okay? And then do the rest after the break, okay? And then I'll see you guys at 6:30 then, all right? See you soon.